That may be the greatest catch I've ever seen in my life.
Alright guys, for everyone asking me how to get in a Dynasty Fantasy Football League, I promise y'all, just stick around on the channel. We are going to have a ton of Dynasty League openings as soon as we get past week 16. I'm going to be running our own startup drafts. Back, y'all know the main channel has like 22,000 subscribers right now. Back when that channel only had 2,000 subscribers, we were able to have 9 Dynasty listener leagues. So now I'd imagine we're going to have way more. Excited to play against y'all. I crushed in those listener leagues in 2020. So all the new listeners, you are up for it. You are going to get crushed just like everybody else. But anyway, guys, thank y'all so much for all the support. Thank y'all for going down there, dropping that like, leaving that comment. It really helps out the channel. And yeah, that's it. Let's get into this video. Let's not waste too much time. And let's talk about 5 late round wide receiver targets for your Dynasty Superflex drafts. Okay, so our first wide receiver target is going to be someone that has mainly been a disappointment so far in his rookie season. And this is going to be a Laviska Shenault. Okay, guys, so here, whenever I call Laviska Shenault a disappointment in his rookie season, really, it's kind of tongue-in-cheek because Laviska has had a decent rookie season. The only thing is, it does not live up to what we've seen from the other rookie wide receivers in this draft class. I mean, I think that we can confidently say now, after the performance by CeeDee Lamb, T. Higgins, Justin Jefferson, Chase Claypool, Brandon Ayuk, I mean, more and more rookie wide receivers, that this is by far and away the best rookie wide receiver draft class that we have ever seen. So all these rookie wide receivers that did not pop off completely, guys like Jerry Jeudy, Laviska Shenault, KJ Hamler, I mean, I think that they are going to be severely undervalued this upcoming offseason just based on the fact that they are going to be discounted with all of the other performances by the rookie wide receivers, even though they are historical outliers by every measure. So here with Laviska Shenault, I think that we have to take a step back. We have to look at a wide receiver coming out of Colorado in the 2020 NFL Draft that profiled to be an Alpha X wide receiver that was also used a little bit as a gadget player at Colorado based on the fact that he has an elite athletic profile. Now, I know if you go pull up his combine numbers, they're not going to jump off the page. But, guys, if you were not paying attention back last season, Laviska Shenault was dealing with a groin injury during the NFL Combine, so that's why those numbers look as is. A lot of people were speculating that he was going to have Julio Jones-type athleticism going into the NFL Combine, and obviously we can't say that's the case because we don't have the numbers. But what I think that we can safely say is that Laviska Shenault is an elite level athlete. The Jacksonville Jaguars decided to take Laviska in the second round of the 2020 NFL Draft class. And yes, I mean, he's playing on one of the worst offenses in football, but this is a team that, because of how bad they've been so far this season, it looks like they're going to be in the range of a 2021 draft class to be able to go out there and be able to get a Justin Fields. Possibly, if you were so lucky, maybe the Jets are able to win a game or two to close out the season. Maybe the Jaguars lose out and somehow they end up with Trevor Lawrence. Not something that I'm expecting, but if we remember in 2019, the Miami Dolphins looked like they were a lock for that first overall pick, and then they ended up turning it around slightly, being able to win some games. It doesn't look like that's going to be the case for the New York Jets, but it is in the range of outcomes. Okay. So now our next wide receiver is someone that I was aggressively targeting in the 3rd round of Dynasty rookie drafts this past offseason, and this is going to be a KJ Hamler. Okay, so here with KJ Hamler, I know this is a wide receiver that has also been very disappointing so far in his rookie season. I mean, especially considering that we've had no Courtland Sutton for this offense. But I think that we have to understand, KJ Hamler was the youngest wide receiver in the entire NFL draft this past offseason, and he's been dealing with injuries throughout this season so far. We've actually had multiple games where KJ Hamler has been able to go out there and receive about 8 to 12 targets. That's something that I thought was not even possible with the profile of a wide receiver that he was. I thought that we were hoping that he was going to be a poor man's Henry Ruggs, where we know that he is going to have a very high average depth of target, because if you did not know, KJ Hamler was most likely the second fastest player in the 2020 NFL Draft, only behind Henry Ruggs. The only reason we don't know that for sure is because he was not able to go out there and participate at the NFL Combine because of an injury that he was suffering throughout that Combine. I think maybe it was a hamstring. Don't really remember off the top of my head. But if you looked at him getting clocked on the field at Penn State, it looked like he was one of the fastest players in college football. And now here with KJ Hamler, I think that we're just going to be expecting him to continue to progress his game as we go into 2021, because that's historically what we see from these wide receivers who are extremely young coming into the NFL. They're able to get on the field right away, and just getting on the field right away is a talent in itself, even if you're not providing a ton of production. And here with KJ Hamler, I mean, this past week, he showed what his upside is. I mean, he was able to go out there and off of 3 targets, come together with 2 touchdowns and like 80 yards. I mean, KJ Hamler's never going to be a very consistent option in fantasy, but for a lot of those dynasty leagues, like the dynasty leagues that we run, where you really need to be about 7 wide receivers deep, I think that he's someone that's going to be an extremely safe option to have an NFL role on an offense for, I want to say, the next 6 seasons at the very minimum. So in my opinion, KJ Hamler is a fantastic depth piece to go after, especially knowing that he has a little bit more upside. All right, so now let's go to our next wide receiver, someone that's going to be going a little bit earlier in dynasty startups this offseason, Corey Davis. Guys, really, I know Corey Davis is not going to be at the end of drafts. I really just want to talk about him, to be completely honest. Y'all know Corey Davis has been a wide receiver that I have loved throughout his entire NFL career. I honestly thought in 2019 that he was going to be the wide receiver 1 over A.J. Brown. And yeah, I mean, that looks like one of the worst calls of NFL history, just because A.J. Brown is such a dominant option for the Tennessee Titans offense. But here, Corey Davis has had a full-on breakout in 2020. I mean, he's been able to be a consistent player for the Tennessee Titans, getting volume in that offense as well. And I think that we can say confidently now with Corey Davis that he has been a wide receiver that has always had the talent. I mean, if you remember him coming out of Western Michigan, the underlying metrics in terms of his market share numbers were through the roof. Very similar to a player like KJ Hamler, very similar to a player like Laviska Shenault. The combine numbers are not going to be representative of what we knew from Corey Davis's athleticism because he did not participate at the NFL Combine in 2017 due to an injury. I believe he was able to go out there and put up some numbers during his pro day, but we all know with pro day numbers, very hard to follow just because they're not in a controlled setting. Regardless, here with Corey Davis, I mean, looks like he could be moving on from Tennessee in 2021. Don't necessarily know if that would be a good thing for his fantasy football value, but I think that we can safely say now that Corey Davis is one of the more talented wide receivers in the entire NFL. He's still young enough to be entering his prime at the NFL level. Really, no reason to run from Corey Davis. If anything, I'm trying to target him. Okay. So now our next wide receiver, someone that I invested into this past offseason, and it looks like it has not worked out so far, Mecole Hardman. Okay, guys, if y'all remember with Mecole Hardman, the Kansas City Chiefs actually traded up for him in the 2019 NFL Draft. Once they traded up for him, everybody and their mom was screaming, oh my God, they are going to get DK Metcalf. I mean, imagine if they actually ended up taking DK Metcalf over Mecole Hardman. That would be absolutely insane. But regardless here, with Mecole Hardman, he has been a major disappointment in Kansas City so far. But if we remember, this was a wide receiver coming out of Georgia, really had no production, really had no experience as a wide receiver getting volume. So the Kansas City Chiefs took him mainly because of his physical traits. They took him because of his speed. They took him because of what he was able to do in special teams for this Kansas City Chiefs team. But I think that if we just understand that he is in a situation where he's going to be most likely stepping up as the wide receiver 2 in Kansas City in 2021, given the fact that Sammy Watkins is playing under his last year of the Kansas City contract, it looks like Mecole Hardman could be having one of the most valuable roles in the entire NFL as an every down player for Patrick Mahomes. We know he has the physical traits. He just needs to be able to put it all together. All right, so now our next wide receiver is someone coming off the end of his rookie contract, and this is going to be Curtis Samuel. Okay, so guys, I know if you've been playing Dynasty for a while, it seems like Curtis Samuel has been around forever. I mean, being drafted in the 2nd round by the Carolina Panthers in 2017, it's surprising to hear that Curtis Samuel is still only 24 years old. I mean, he was one of the youngest players in that 2017 NFL draft class. And if y'all remember, going into 2019, 2 off seasons ago, a lot of people wanted to have the conversation. I mean, is it Curtis Samuel or is it DJ Moore, the wide receiver 1 for the Carolina Panthers? And when I thought that conversation was completely ludicrous, I mean, obviously, the answer was DJ Moore based on the underlying metrics. Still, the fact remains, Curtis Samuel is a very talented wide receiver at the NFL level. Really, the only thing that's ever held him back in fantasy is his usage in the Carolina Panthers offense, or in 2019, he was a little bit pigeonholed as a wide receiver that was going to operate as a downfield threat when he had one of the worst quarterbacks in the entire NFL in Kyle Allen. And then in 2020, they actually completely restructured the offense with Matt Rule and Joe Brady coming in, where Robbie Anderson operated as the alpha wide receiver. We saw DJ Moore be a little bit more of the deep threat and Curtis Samuel be a little bit more of the gadget player. But given the fact that Curtis Samuel provides so much for an NFL offense with his athletic profile and with how you can be creative in moving him around the football field, I think that Curtis Samuel is actually going to get a very nice payday this offseason, whether that's to the Carolina Panthers, whether that's to another NFL team. Personally, I'm hoping he gets a new setting outside of Carolina, given the fact that DJ Moore and Robbie Anderson have really held him back from going and producing as a wide receiver 2 in fantasy. But Curtis Samuel is still a player on the rise as he's extremely young, and he's also a player that we know has shown the talent so far. All right. Now, thank you guys. I really hope y'all enjoyed this video. I really hope y'all got something from it. As always, if y'all did, go down there, drop that like, leave that comment, subscribe to the channel. It really, really helps us out. And yeah, that's all I got for y'all. Have a great day, guys.